Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback, Trey Johnson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast presented by the 2019 Legends of Pittsburgh Crews. My name is Joe Kuzma, and we're at the end of the week looking to preview the Steelers game on Sunday against the Los Angeles Chargers. Still a little hard to remember saying that, but that could only mean one thing. It's time for Trey's Corner with Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback Trey Johnson. Trey, you are the traveling man. You're all over the place. How you feeling right now? How's everything going?
I'm feeling good, man. Just happy to be alive, Blessed to see another day.
You know, I'm feeling that way sometimes too, man. I mean, life is just a grind. I blinked and we're already beyond Thanksgiving, and now it's an appropriate time for Christmas decorations and Christmas music and the holiday season. Not after Halloween. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like.
Yeah, you gotta wait for Thanksgiving. I definitely love Christmas though. I love Christmas trees and the Christmas lights. It's so festive.
Yeah, I love it too. It's great. It's just seeing it for like 2-3 months is a little like overbearing. I mean, it was crazy, man. I mean, I walked into a Home Depot the day after Halloween. This is usually when people go and get candy, and of course, there's not candy at Home Depot. I was just going to grab some, nails or screws or something that I needed. And they were already, all the Halloween stuff's like 50-75% off. They're putting up the blow-up inflatable things that they sell for Christmas and everything. And I'm like, really? This is a little early for that. So we do have some football to talk about before I jump on that, though. There's a little bit of what I feel. I've been... I don't know. I was going to say debating in the comment section on YouTube over on our Steel City Underground YouTube channel where our podcast is simulcast. And a lot of people are saying that a specific player, I don't want to put the specific situation and everything in your lap, but we all know who we're talking about, and saying that, throwing players under the bus and stuff. But my side of hearing this and having played team sports and been involved with college and pro athletes is I didn't get the impression anyone was being thrown under the bus when someone was asked to diagram a play. If somebody were to say something to you, Trey, of the effect of, well, you missed a block here, or the wrong route was run, or the wrong coverage, or be it offense or defense, and they're kind of diagramming or outlining a number of things that went wrong with the play, which of course ended up in a turnover, or even a bad situation. Let's just say on your end of the ball, it would be if someone scored a touchdown on you. Just how personal do you take that, hearing that from someone else? Because I'm also of the impression, you guys sit in a film room with 53 plus players, coaches, and staff, and everybody else, and this is kind of like, this is a team environment. This isn't just a me mentality where it's gonna, let's say, hurt any feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely don't think he hurt any feelings. I think if anything, he brought it to the forefront, that you kind of need to call those players out and make them make plays. I feel like that's really all it was. It wasn't like he was maliciously saying like, oh, this person's trash, that person's trash. He's just saying this is what went wrong in this play, and we're going to get into practice and we're going to fix it. I don't think he was malicious in any sort of way and like trying to actually throw people under the bus, especially, for somebody of that caliber to say something like that. He's just correcting his teammates and holding his teammates accountable. And that's something that, every player needs to do, especially the leader. They definitely need to hold everybody accountable. So he's just doing his job.
You think it's maybe that it's said publicly, where someone just in the general public like myself outside of a film room, a team environment, a locker room hears it, that maybe makes it a little more surprising?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Social media can blow everything out of proportion. Media in general, not just social media, but, reading something on a piece of paper versus, hearing something in the context of the question and everything like that can change a lot about, a quote that someone says. So when it comes to media, a lot of times they just give the juicy quote so they can stir up a conversation and, give headlines. But, in reality, when you're in the locker room and when you're with your teammates, when you know their actual intentions, you know that they're not trying to tear you down. They're just trying to, let you know that, hey, we need you to step up and we need you to be able to make these plays when we need them.
Yeah, I know I've been called, and myself and Brian and a few of us have been called homers or not critical enough of players, situations, teams, games, and whatever, because of that very thing you said, a juicy headline. I call it clickbait, and in our industry, and you tend to fall into something like that where you're going to take something and then try and run with it and try and generate, whether it be views, if it's on videos or TV, your viewership, your listenership, if it's audio format or something you get read, you get the clicks, clickbait, hence the term. And
I like that term a little more.
Oh man, I'll tell you, it's a constant grind because you see some of the things that do well as far as like your audience and your numbers and stuff, and you tend to want to keep doing things that are. I remember it's kind of like the shock jock thing. Howard Stern years ago when he was like this big shocking thing. WWE very similar too, kind of went almost like PG-13, R-rated type, more adult oriented, very shocking, and generated a lot of buzz and stuff like that. But in some cases it gets negative, and then it burns and fizzles and fades out, and then what do you have? So it's something where I always try to have a little bit of integrity when it comes to that type of thing. But I also think that this isn't something that's new, and people tend to only remember it when there's a bad loss. Or I don't even want to say it was a bad loss last week. It was just, a lot of some lack of execution, some bad luck, and things that didn't go their way. It's mistake football versus mistake-free football, of which the Denver Broncos made like no mistakes. I mean, you can't win a game turning the ball over 4 or 5 times. It just doesn't work that way in football. It shouldn't work that way in professional football, at least. But I wanted to get your opinion on this too, because I think some of that, I think that's what it has to deal with. I mean, like a week earlier, the Steelers, they Big Ben guts out this victory, runs it over the goal line, Jacksonville Jaguars, and everybody's happy. It's a victory, and nobody's talking about, how he makes any comments about throwing an interception with Jalen Ramsey or any of that stuff. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, it's an excuse or something like that. Well, if somebody gets grabbed, trust me, if I'm playing a sport and somebody cheats and they don't get caught cheating, I'm going to call out that it was cheating. I'm going to be upset about it because I know what I saw, and maybe it shouldn't have been an interception because Antonio Brown was grabbed in the Broncos game or something like that. But you got to play, you got to play around that. You got to play through that type of stuff. But winning versus losing, it seems like college programs, you got these powerhouse programs that never lose. A lot of people follow, and I don't think that people kind of are on the same train of thought with NFL, that it's really any given Sunday, sans a few teams, because I mean a couple of these teams that are really in the basement right now, if those type of comments are made, then they're probably more derogatory in nature. But how much does just the losing versus win? Everything's good when you're winning, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Winning solves everything. When you're winning, it doesn't matter if you're showing up late. Well, it matters, but, they're a lot more lenient. You might show up late. They might still just let you kind of slide in there, just because, you're winning and you're doing your job. But, when you're losing, every little comment is kind of more so nitpicked. Everybody's trying to find that one problem and try and make it perfect. So, you want to make sure that you're not the problem. People aren't always coming up to you trying to correct you and everything like that. So, really it's just about like going out there every day, every single day, making sure you're on your P's and Q's, making sure you're doing everything right, whether you're winning or you're losing, that way you really don't have to worry about, people coming up to you or saying things behind your back, directly, because if you're out there doing everything right, whether you're winning or you're losing, then, nobody really can have anything to say. Because, it's not your fault either way.
Yeah. It's, you ignore all the bad when there's something good with a W, and no matter what's good, it's going to be bad when there's an L in that column. How much more difficult is it to win a week after a loss or after a win, or which one's harder? I think it would be harder to just keep a win streak going, because realistically, winning like 5-6 games in a row, it's not like any team's going to win out the remainder of the season. We just saw that last night with the Cowboys and Saints.
I definitely feel like, playing after a loss, it kind of gives you more of a motivation, so it's not a lot easier, but, you have winning on the brain, you're thinking like, oh, I need to get back on this win streak, especially for us. We were on I think it was like a 5, 6, 7 game win streak, so we were definitely, feeling ourselves and feeling hot. So, when that win streak ends, you definitely want to get right back on it. So, for me, I feel like it's harder to keep a win streak going because especially you got to think about it, every time you stack another one of those W's, the next team is looking at them like, okay, we need to be the team to make them end the win streak, so it kind of puts a target on your back, when you're winning like that. So it makes it more difficult, it makes it so that, every single game you got to go out there and be perfect. You got to go out there and play mistake-free ball, take advantage of every opportunity that comes.
Yeah, now we're getting prepared now for a very big game, and it's been moved to Sunday Night Football. Joking with you being the traveling man, always changing time zones and stuff like that. Appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us once again for Trey's Corner. This game coming up Sunday moved from a 1 o'clock kickoff to 8:20 for Sunday Night Football, meaning probably more of an advantage for the team traveling from the West Coast, 3 hours. I don't know, the people say 4 hours, but it's really 3 hours behind. If it's a 1 o'clock game to the bodies of the Los Angeles Chargers, that's a 10 o'clock kickoff. So how much does that factor in? Did the league do the Chargers a big favor here by moving this game back to an 8:20 Eastern time kickoff?
I don't think so. I think, they may have even done us a favor, just kind of giving us more time throughout the day so that we can plan more and, kind of make sure that everything is perfect and everything is right, just kind of dot all our I's and cross all our T's, so I feel like that's more so what happened with the game. I don't think it's a disadvantage, on any team's part, having more time in the day can really always be an advantage, but, some players don't really like playing late at night. So, I mean, it's different for each and every player, but I feel like as the organizations as a whole, it's definitely beneficial to both of them.
Now, I always joke you're a warm weather guy. I'm looking at the forecast now. It's probably going to change. It's like there's rain. Actually, it was pretty funny. I think USA Today put out an article I saw this morning that people in Los Angeles were freaking out over rain. And I just kind of joked because it's been snowing off and on for like the last week up in these parts. But looking at Sunday, it's supposed to jump from Saturday from a high of 46 up to a high of 61 Sunday. Now, obviously, it's not going to be 61 when the sun goes down and they're playing Sunday Night Football, but looking at a low of 43, and I'm just wondering, temperature-wise, I don't know if that's any type of advantage or home field advantage for the Steelers. Probably better than being the afternoon game because in the 60s, that's not going to be too much of a shock to the Chargers. It just personally, that's the way I feel. Now, the Chargers 8-3. And the Steelers 7-3-1 with that dreaded tie that's on there. So these teams are definitely postseason contenders. In fact, if the Chargers maybe were playing in a different division, they'd be leading it. But that's the Kansas City Chiefs took such a lead here early. Last week they played the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals got up on them on the road in L.A. 10-0 early and then dropped 45 unanswered points. However, in that victory for the Chargers, they lost running back Melvin Gordon. I think that's going to be a big hit for them, but they still have Phillip Rivers, same quarterback class. You're going to have all these comparisons between him and Big Ben coming up on Sunday. Rivers is a very accurate quarterback. He maybe doesn't have the same volume of passing that he used to. They seem to be back on track with that. They have a receiving threat in Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, who will probably receive probably the benefit of most of the playing time with Melvin Gordon out with an injury, is a capable receiving back. You still have Mike Williams, second-year rookie, who's had I think he had a 2-touchdown game last week, and then he's also he's had 4 receiving TDs in his past 5 games on the road. How does the Steelers defense approach the LA Chargers offense, and basically how can they slow him down? Because Phillip Rivers, he went 28 for 29 last week. The Cardinals cannot do anything.
Yeah, I definitely feel like what we have to do is kind of try and stop that passing game with Phillip Rivers, especially with having Melvin Gordon hurt, Austin Eckler, he's no Melvin Gordon, but he's definitely a good running back. He's still in the NFL. So I feel like they're probably going to come out there and try and establish, some type of run just to open up play action later on down the field. But I definitely feel like their game plan is to kind of put the ball in Phillip Rivers' hands, let him make decisions and kind of pick apart the defense. So, in order for us to really kind of stop that, we just got to make sure we have, all the right matchups. Everybody's in the perfect positions and everybody knows, if we're in zone, everybody knows exactly where their zone is, gets to their drops quickly and makes plays quickly because, with Phillip Rivers, he's a quarterback that's been doing it for a long time, just like you said, he came in with Big Ben and we were actually talking about this. I was talking about this with my dad the other day and saying how Phillip Rivers is really underrated. And, in my eye, he definitely knows what he's doing back there. So it really is just up to us, just kind of make sure, we're making the right calls, in the right coverage the whole game. If we're manned up, everybody's locked in on their man. Nobody has their eyes in the backfield, trying to make a spectacular play, make sure that everybody knows their role and does their job, and as long as we do that, we'll be good.
I love that. It's almost like a wrestling reference with The Rock, like know your role.
Yeah, know your role and do your job. It's funny. My college coach used to say that. It was this really, really older white man. He used to always say, just know your role and do your job. Don't do too much. Everybody do your 111.
Yeah, it's the 110 used to be. We used to use that on paperwork for no, but without people knowing a no, and then you draw a line between the two ones. So we don't want that. We want the 111, not the 110, right? So
yeah.
I'm just looking at. I'm trying to pull up the injury report here because I know the Steelers are a little bit banged up on different sides of the ball here. But Dupree was limited. But Stephon Tuitt appears to be back on track to return this weekend. Do you think Stephon Tuitt has I believe personally he's made a huge impact right before he got hurt, and I think he's going to be key to putting pressure on Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, I definitely think that having Tuitt back is definitely another asset to our defense. Especially when it comes to D linemen. D linemen are rotating a lot more often. Just because of the simple fact, you can't kind of have them on the field the whole time. They run out of gas eventually. So you got to make sure that having that rotation is good and fluent. And, when you throw Tuitt into the rotation, that's a whole nother playmaker. That's a whole nother Pro Bowler in the middle, so it just kind of gives us more opportunity to kind of not only bring pressure on the quarterback, but, just to stop up that middle so that they can't really establish the run, because it's real difficult to move people like Tuitt and Cam. They're just so large. And, when they put that weight in the ground, you can't just force them to go anywhere. So having that, on your D line, it really all starts there, that line of scrimmage, fighting for who wants it most. And, Tuitt usually wants it most. So it's definitely good to have him back out there.
Yeah, it will be good. He was a full participant in practice on Thursday. Javon Hargrave has also excelled, receiving more snaps while Tuitt has been injured and sidelined. And that should be a very interesting rotation if these guys are both playing at a high level alongside with Cam Hayward. A few other injuries to note, too, is how does an injury like Morgan Burnett's back? He's been hurt. He did not practice Wednesday and Thursdays. Unless he gets on the field in some capacity, I believe he won't be on the field Sunday. He's kind of a guy who's been roaming around everywhere on the defensive side of the ball. How does that change the game planning for the Steelers defense?
It definitely kind of hurts, having somebody like Morgan get hurt because of the fact that, like you just said, he kind of roams the whole defense. He's one of those players where you can kind of plug them in anywhere and, they'll be able to know their role and do their job, be able to make sure that the defense still runs successfully. So losing him, and you also lose that veteran mentality, that veteran vocalist on the field, so it definitely hurts. But I feel like, the way to kind of combat that is, we have people behind him who are doing the same thing. Cam is somebody who kind of roams the field on the defense and kind of can do every single position. He plays in the slot, he plays in the corner, free safety, strong safety, and Dangerfield also does that, So it's just about finding, the next man up. It sucks that, Morgan got hurt, of course. But we definitely got to move on and, just kind of find the next man up and make sure that the next man makes a play. It's just like, make sure that there's no drop off, everybody's just staying on track and make sure that everybody's doing their job and knows what their job is, first of all, and then goes out there and does it to perfection.
Is there any way you would compensate differently? I'm looking at the outside linebackers here, and there's like 3 that are on the depth chart, and the Steelers didn't seem too worried about this heading into the season, but Bud Dupree shows up on the injury report this week with a pectoral injury. He was a non-participant Wednesday. He was limited on Thursday, going to be monitoring his progress. I almost feel like he's just going to have to put some tape on it and go out there. But they've been getting a nice rotation with Anthony Chickillo too. They haven't activated Ola yet. Still can't Adonai, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. But he's been on injured reserve, designated to return at some point this season. And I'm just looking at this like, could this be a problem for the Steelers? I don't really feel that way because the base package 3-4, even some of the nickel packages, it seems like they kind of shift these guys around being the outside linebackers in such a way that perhaps they could always maybe just put Vince Williams or John Bostic over on the edge, just maybe send Mike Hilton a certain way. How might that also impact the way that they're able to bring pressure to Phillip Rivers, who, by the way, has only been sacked 3 more times than Roethlisberger has this year, so they keep him upright. But again, as you were saying, trying to shut down this pass game, they're going to have to try and rattle Phil. What can they do? Are they going to have to change anything up differently? If what I'm assuming here is that if Bud isn't healthy or Bud can't play, I don't know if Anthony Chickillo and T.J. Watt, are they going? They can't play 100% of the snaps. It's just they need some rest.
I think especially with our defense, us running the 3-4 and being able to have, those guys, those outside linebackers, to me, they're really more so like defensive ends because a lot of the times, they're up on the line, they're standing up, they're coming off the edge, so a lot of times you can just move, one of those interior linemen outside, like Hargrave, he's already played out there before, he's come off that edge before and kind of knows how to do it, and, of course you just mentioned Vince and the other linebackers. So they're definitely able to do it. And when it comes to the way that our defense is set up, you can really kind of fill anybody into that void. You can, like you even said, you can send Mike off the edge. It comes from a different angle, just because he doesn't start in the same position as Bud Dupree would have started. But, he's still coming off the edge and he's still being able to bring that pressure. It just may take, half a second longer. So those are some ways that we can combat it. You kind of hit it right on the head, just kind of making sure that we keep that rotation going. Like, just like you said, Tua being in to being back, that also helps the outside linebackers, because now you can possibly move Cam out there or really anybody who knows how to come off that edge a little bit better, just to kind of bring them off the edge and keep those, those starters like T.J. Watt and Chickillo real energied up and real gassed up, making sure that they're on the sideline getting water and then right back out there. But I definitely feel like you want to make sure that they're out there for the important plays. If it's second and third down, I definitely would rather have Chickillo and T.J. Watt out there, just because they're the starters and, they're the ones that is going to bring pressure every single time. So I definitely feel like that's one part of the game within the game, I guess you could say, that you should definitely focus on, is just making sure that your best players are out there on the most important downs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I should have mentioned Javon kind of sliding over too, which we've seen. He almost out of necessity did the same thing because of everybody getting banged up last week. We saw TJ Watt go in the locker room, get his hand taped up. Doesn't seem to be anything serious. I didn't see any reports on that. And he certainly hasn't been limited in practice either. And just lost my other train of thought there, Trey. I had something else for you on the defensive side of the ball. It'll come back to me, though, I promise. But all good thoughts. Oh, that's what it was, too. That could almost be a blessing and a curse, having to shake some things up like that. The curse, of course, being communication and doing things a little differently and having not done it. But having not done it, it's also not on tape. So you can't the other team, being the Chargers, can't plan for tendencies, because there aren't any tendencies if you're doing something completely different that hasn't been put on film. Like, that's the reason why fake plays work. They usually tend to play off of tendencies. Obviously with Chris Boswell last week, the tendency being, well, you know what, it's the end of the half. We're all just going to put our hands on our hips. He's going to attempt this field goal, and we all go in the locker room. And instead, he takes a direct snap and throws a touchdown pass. So we're going to hop over to the offensive side of the ball here. But before I do, I just wanted to mention our sponsor, the 2019 Legends of Pittsburgh Cruise. And if you're looking, folks, for the perfect gift for that special someone this holiday season, well, we have just the thing to tell you about. It's a cruise to the Bahamas with Pittsburgh legends like Tunch Ilkin, Willie Parker. That's Fast Willie Parker. You see, you need a nickname like that, Fast Trey Johnson. We're going to work on that for you. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, man. You guys got to come up with one, man.
Santonio Holmes and Juju Smith-Schuster, as well as many more, announced and to be announced here in the future. Dance the night away as you enjoy the music and each other's company. That's if you're bringing the special someone. You could always, of course, get this for yourself and just go solo and enjoy yourself with all of these Legends of Pittsburgh. Book now at legendsofpittsburghcruise.com. You can find more information also on our website, steelcityunderground.com/legendscruise. Or for those of you who like to pick up a phone and talk with a human being, the number is 877-381-5553. And don't forget about using the promo code SCU19 when booking. So, of course, on the offensive side of the ball, there's a couple of players. It looks like coaches' decisions that Mike Tomlin decided to sit Marquise Pouncey out, give them a day of rest. Also, Ramon Foster. We're seeing B.J. Finney has personal reasons as to why he hasn't been in practice. Not sure what that is. Not gonna dive into that. Maybe it might not be anything. Maybe family illness or even someone having a kid. Who knows? I haven't seen anything on that. I'm kind of ignorant of that situation. Not going to dive into it. Vance McDonald pops up with a hip, unfortunately, too. Marcus Gilbert has been did not practice for the last 2 days. Vance did get back out there full practice. Hopefully, doesn't re-aggravate everything and just kind of like the bumps and bruises associated with heading into the December football slate here. So looks like Xavier Grimble also out of the concussion protocol. The big thing here is just at right tackle, Marcus Gilbert's probably not going to be out there again. Maybe it'll be Matt Filer, who's no longer on the injury report. Maybe could have played last weekend, but coaches decided to go with the rookie Chucks or Chooks or Chooks. Man, I tell you,
Okorafor.
Yeah, but I could say Okorafor just fine. It's just give me a year or so of saying some of these. I mean, I just got used to all these defensive guys just changed their numbers, like all the guys in the secondary. It was driving me crazy through the preseason in September, and now I finally, 28's Mike Hilton. Now I got it. I'm used to looking for 31 out there, and it's like if 31, who was Nat Burhay, makes a bad play, then I'm like, oh, Hilton, you bum, and I'm like, oh wait, it's not Hilton. So, and I don't call these guys bums anyways, but just the right tackle.
You're definitely calling us bums. You're definitely calling us bums on Sundays, man. I probably hear you yelling at the TV screen right now.
You know what? Even to be truthfully honest, I mean, it was just one of those things where last Sunday it didn't bother me. There's games that bother me. The game that really made me sick to my stomach was the Baltimore Ravens Sunday night game, and being there in the building too. It's just. But you look at it and you see what a team's trying to do. Obviously, a lot of people are going to try and push it on the coaching staff, but it's like it's execution. Coaches don't fumble footballs. Yeah. Coaches don't throw a pass behind someone, or coaches aren't committing pass interference. You know what I mean? It's all up to execution on the field. So I got to look at these Steelers here, because we didn't talk a whole lot of stats, but the Chargers put up almost as many points and give up just a shade less. Actually 0.1 less than 20, 19.9, where the Steelers kind of inflated a little bit here to 22.6, but had been hovering at around the 20 range here since September. So now the Chargers have a pair of guys that can get after the quarterback. Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa is back into their fold as well. what do the Steelers got to do here? Because, like I said, it's still no Marcus Gilbert, who a lot of people feel is a Pro Bowl level tackle. Filer is fit in just well. Corafor could be back out there as well, depending on how that is. You got to slow down these guys. These are the true defensive ends that are coming off the edge.
Yeah. So I feel like what the Steelers offense kind of has to do is just kind of focus on the run. Of course, just always got to establish that. I feel like that's something we kind of got away from last week, but it's kind of hard to do that when you're playing from behind. It's difficult to just kind of establish the run so early. So I feel like that's something we got to come out there and do, and definitely kind of attack the secondary. The secondary is a very good secondary. I actually know a few of the guys that play there. A few of them for Tampa.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah, some of them like Jalil, he's like a Tampa legend, man. So it's real cool to just kind of see people like that, and then also play with Desmond King. When he was in college, well, right before college, before he went up there to Iowa. So it was just kind of fun to just see teammates and friends just kind of all in the league, making big plays. But anyways, they definitely have a really good defense and a good secondary, but they're more so on the young side. So I feel like you just kind of try and not really trick them, but kind of throw different things at them so that different route combinations that they really haven't seen. Kind of like how you said with the game plan. You can't game plan against something if you haven't seen it on film. So if we throw some things that they haven't seen on film at them, I definitely feel like that might rattle them a little bit. We come out with big plays, and kind of touching on last week, really quick for a second. It's not like we were calling bad plays or anything like that. Like you just said, it was really just execution. We had wide open players, running down the sideline, and we just missed them. Plays that we usually make, we weren't making. That's really all it was. So I feel like we come out there this week, we just kind of end up making those plays. The ball ends up rolling our way. We end up connecting on that wide open play. We don't fumble on the goal line or whatever it is. I just feel like we're going to come out with a different mentality and just kind of make more plays. And that's especially what we got to do with the Chargers defense, because they're really good at all three levels. They're good, on the D-line, on the linebacker section, and in the secondary. But, we just got to attack it, full force ahead and make plays.
Oh, I agree. You covered everything defense I was going to talk about except for one guy, and that was their top pick, Derwin. Derwin James. Yeah, I mean, he's a stud. He had a pick last week. By the way, Bosa had 2 sacks last week. I don't know how much credit you give. Like, I know your favorite word, scrubs, and we don't really want to tear anyone down, but Arizona is kind of a dysfunctional team, to say the least. So, I mean, they put up 45 on Arizona. They put Geno Smith in there like around the tail end of the third quarter and gave Phillip Rivers a rest too. And so I don't know. I'm looking at this and I'm just kind of like exactly what you said. Steelers. And now you said from behind. What people might not realize is even getting down like 10-0. Now all of a sudden you're kind of let's kind of get back into this. And they kind of got into like this groove of just throwing the ball and throwing the ball and throwing the ball and throwing the ball. And it's kind of almost been there's 2 excellent defenses that they've already faced. How would you compare maybe the Chargers defense versus the Broncos and Jaguars? If I'm inclined to say so myself, I'd probably put the Jaguars ahead of the Chargers. And I don't know. It's tough for me to say.
Second.
Yeah, it's tough for me to
say. I think,
yeah. Von Miller, man. I mean, it's a huge one when it comes to the Broncos. It makes me like really think about that long and hard.
Yeah, definitely. Von Miller is definitely an asset. Obviously we saw that last week, but I feel like overall to look at it at all 3 levels, I feel like the Chargers would come in a close second behind the Jags. Just because, like I said, they're good at literally all 3 levels. Their D line is really nice. They have multiple people who can get after the quarterback. And then they also have the linebackers. Their linebackers are great tacklers. Sideline to sideline, they really don't miss a lot of tackles. And they're able to bring a lot of pressure. Which is always a bonus when it comes to linebackers. And then on the back end, they're kind of solid at every position. It's not like they have a weakness. Their slot cornerbacks can really start on some other teams. So. They're kind of good all over the field, especially I almost forgot again kind of how you mentioned Derwin James with him being, the number 1 pick for them. And, he's one of those players that is a playmaker on defense, which is kind of hard to come by. He has a position. Obviously, I think he's listed as a free safety, but really, he plays all over the field. He rolls down in the slot. He rolls back and plays at free safety, and then gets in the box. A little bit strong safety. He might even go out there on the island and cover somebody, depending on the matchup. So he's just an asset that you kind of gotta look for on defense, because if we're not looking for him, he's definitely out there just kind of lurking, looking at Ben Roethlisberger's eyes, and trying to make a play on the ball.
Yeah, and I always think that, Ben, I think players and teams in general, there's no place like home. So we'll see. And the Steelers tend to always get amped up for prime time in a Sunday night football game. I'll get your prediction here in a second, but I had a bonus question because in case no one has seen this or any of the talking points, you have Marquise Pouncey's brother, Mike, who's the center for the Chargers. So you have a little bit of a brotherly rivalry. But most people forget there's another Watt brother. He plays fullback, and I think we made this joke before, Derek Watt. And it's funny because his initials would be DJ, but he doesn't go by DJ like TJ and JJ, which is just kind of goofy. So he's definitely the lesser guy. He's the forgotten guy because the fullback's doing all the dirty work. But,
yeah, I was just about to say that, a fullback position. I didn't even know that was still a thing. I thought we only had Rosie, and that's the only one in the NFL.
There's a few like utility players like that that come to mind. I want to say the Packers definitely have one. The Ravens almost always have a guy that they could at least chip in there, and it does something like that. That was
backup tight end or something usually.
Yeah. It seems, I don't know, maybe an AFC North type thing because the Bengals, I want to say too. The Bengals had for sure when it was Rex Burkhead. I'm trying to think. There's a kid now, I think, that returns punts or kicks for them too, that kind of almost like an H-back more or less in some cases where it's a more versatile player and not just a dedicated true fullbacks can be a little bit of a rare thing in the NFL. Like they'll throw, you see the Saints, they throw, what's his name, Hill back there sometimes in that kind of spot, and it's just, it's not the same thing. But I certainly think that the Steelers have the better pair of brothers. Hopefully they get the bragging rights on Monday morning. Steelers minus 3.5 here. So they are favored, and a 51.5 over-under. I handed off all my predictions to Tina this week because I missed every single one of them. It's almost, if you go back and read the article from last week, you will laugh. You will have some hilarity. It will brighten your day and make me sad. So I handed that off to her this week and said, "Here, you have fun with this." And I got to take a week off because I missed every single thing. So I'm done with making predictions. I don't know. Over-under could happen. Both of the defenses tend to hover in the 20 range, but both the offenses hover in the 30-plus or the 30-point range. So, I mean, right there you're looking at, okay, who holds who to what? And, I mean, the Steelers obviously just get that kind of edge by the bookies because it's a home game and it's at Heinz Field. But I have to think primetime, a West Coast team traveling over to Pittsburgh, and plus the added motivation of a stinging loss from last weekend in Denver, all bodes well in the Steelers' favor. Of course, I'm not going to pick anyone else anyways. Curious to hear what your prediction would be for Sunday night.
I feel like with the over/under, I don't think we're going to really hit 50s. I don't think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I feel like the defenses are kind of going to show up and kind of make some plays and create a lot of turnovers. So I really don't see too many points, but I think we'll probably get up to like 40 something. I don't know if I had to give a score. I'd probably give us pulling it out probably like, I don't know, 24 to like 21. I definitely think it's going to be a really close game.
Don't give me anxiety, man. I can't deal with any more anxiety.
Yeah, man. I mean, this week is definitely, a really big competition week. It's not like the Chargers are bad. They're one of the leading teams in the NFL, in general. So we definitely got to go out there and be ready and, go out there and play really good football. So I hate to give everybody anxiety, but it's not going to be an easy one, but it's definitely not a giant, it's not like we're going out there playing Goliath. It's definitely, something that we should go out there and we should be able to handle.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see if the defense can make some splash plays too, which has seemed that would definitely be a spark that might have been missing against Denver and perhaps even Jacksonville. Yeah. So, but again, the Steelers have been on the road an awful lot recently. You tend to forget about this, but I just looking through like photos and stuff, just trying to set things up over on the website. The Steelers haven't worn their regular just the standard black home jersey since the Falcons game, because they worn the block number throwbacks and then they wore the color rush.
And then they wore their color rush, yeah.
And they've had a bye week. So, I mean, that's going all the way back to October 7th. When you think about that, they've been on the road at Cincinnati, at Baltimore, at Jacksonville, and at Denver. And they went 3-4 in those road games. So, of course, with the win streak, and we're talking about just being realistic here and everything else, it doesn't get any easier going forward, but it'll only be nice to come back home. 3 of the last 5 at home. They're going to flip back and forth here between going home, road, and home. And, of course, there's some big games still on the schedule, but got to take care of this one first, and I think they'll take care of business. So, Trey, always a pleasure talking to you, and thanks for joining us again today.
Yeah, man, it's great. It's always a fun time here in Trey's Corner, man. I'm happy you guys could have me on the show.
Oh man, we're always happy to have you on the show. Glad we could hook up. Trey's whereabouts are parts unknown right now. He's traveling and all over. I'm not going to out him as talking about that, but
I'm MIA, man. I'm missing in action.
There you go. Well, we found you. And I know the time difference is a little shaky there, but yeah, thanks for taking time out of your schedule. And folks, we're looking forward to Sunday Night Football. Our program will probably come to you sometime Monday morning with the post game, just due to the late night on Sunday. So just a little bit of a show note there and an update for all of our faithful listeners. And if you're not already a faithful listener, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button and make sure you're following us on social media. My name is Joe Kuzma. You could also follow Trey Johnson everywhere too. Alcatraz Island and
Alcatraz Island, yeah.
Yeah, Alcatraz Island.
ALCATRUISLAND.
Oh, you'll definitely find it. I tag you and everything, so all you got to do is look us up and hit the follow button. Give Trey some follows here too. So thanks once again for listening. As always, encouraging our listener to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.